Well, good evening, RZB. As promised, we have a game planning show coming up tonight. We have obviously, do I call you the goat or do I call you the old goat, Nick? Or what do I call you
I,
these days with
I think
Tom
the old I
about?
like the old goat. That's probably relevant in
The
more
old,
ways than one. Yeah.
kind of sounds like something you call your stepmother or something, isn't it?
Yeah,
or
I can live with it. I can live with it. Seems
and
reasonable.
obviously,
Seems a fair
sorry.
compromise, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think we might have to put the vote up soon, actually. Who's the goat, you or Tom, and see what people think.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I if you want to talk about who has done the best over the period of the league, that's one thing. Or you want to talk about who the best is now, that's something else. So you might, I think, to be fair to Tom, he stands a really strong chance of being called the best player right now.
Well,
But
I mean, if you, yeah, I guess you always say, and you've always said, I think that your actual regular season record is very, very important,
yeah,
and
I mean,
you've
you can't.
clearly got the best there by country mile, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can't crown somebody as an all time great after a short amount of time, but you can say that they're the best right now. I mean, I certainly think that would be fair for people to say he's better than me now. I think is a fair comment. Until if I can prove otherwise, that's different. But for the time being, I think it's fair to say he's the best player in the league.
Yeah,
But
100%.
mate,
I'd say four out of
but
five bowls. That's
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
impressive.
But you also got to understand the relevance of the quality of the team you inherit. So it's not a no-brainer that he's better than, say, Ryland, for example.
Hmm.
Because if Ryland walked into a tougher situation and had worse results, he could still be the better player.
True. But then
So
can we say that when you started as Seattle at the very start, I'm guessing at that point the Seahawks had a rather nice roster as well.
um, it was not that great. It was slightly better than average back then.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, it was decent, but it was probably slightly better than average, but it wasn't one of the best teams.
Yeah, I think it's time we put the vote up. I think we let the league decide. I
Yeah,
think that's fair. I will put it
yeah.
up tomorrow and we will see what happens.
But I
Riley, what
don't
do you
think it.
think?
I don't think it's fair for it to be just us two. I think and I think you also need to look a little bit deeper into what people have inherited. Because as I say, until Tom loses that quarterback, I don't think you can even begin to discuss anything about all time. You can not really because he's inherited that quarterback. So if you want to talk about all time, I think Whereas I say, Ryland, what did you inherit, Ryland? How was your team when you took over?
You guys talked about this in a video once upon a time that the Chiefs were sort of, they'd been hanging on, and there wasn't a lot
Yeah,
left when I took them over.
yeah, that's right. That's what I was getting at. So I mean, I think it's very, very easy to look at a win-loss record and not consider the fact of where you come from. I mean, if you're coming from a very, very difficult start, you can't really blame a GM if he struggles with it. And look at Tizak when he took over the Browns. I mean, it took him best part of 10 seasons to get to the bowl, didn't it?
I don't know
No,
when did
It's
yeah,
when did he come in?
nah, no,
got a
I
long
don't
time.
think
I mean,
maybe
I'm talking off the top of
maybe
my head, but
4 or 5. Yeah.
I think people do really underestimate, what you inherit because it's a totally different game. You walk into a decent franchise, especially with a stud quarterback, etc. If you walk into that, then you're running a different team. It's like running Man United versus Leicester City, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
Yeah, true.
how long
Yes.
should it take to turn a franchise around?
well, I genuinely think if you were in the deepest shit I was, I really meant it when I said 10 seasons because your cohesion is huge. If you've got no players and you've got 2 years with zero draft picks, you can't even begin to start getting rookies in the door for 2 seasons if you play it by the book. So maybe 3-4 seasons in, your first draft starts to come in. So that's 5-6 seasons gone already. So
I think
I
assuming a team has their draft picks, your
if
situation would
they have their
probably be
draft picks, that's different.
abnormal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, if they have their draft picks, I still would say it depends about how good their team is, though, doesn't it? Do they have any pieces already? I mean, if you're talking
Assume
about,
they're not very good.
okay, they assume they're not very good, so they're crap, but they do have picks. Are they a tanking GM, or are they a GM that's
All right,
genuinely going to
let's
try?
say your Falcons with picks. Is that
My
fair, Brian?
Falcons.
With a
They
full.
were. So they had zero picks. Okay, no, we'll pretend he did have picks. Didn't have any players other than like a strong safety, kick returner, and a defensive end. I think 7 or 8 seasons probably with picks.
No, I think that's
Okay.
too long.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think like
100%.
I would think
Yeah.
4 seasons, maybe 5 to turn it around.
yeah. But I mean, 4 seasons. You're looking at your first rookies just starting to become fully effective in 4 years. You can have no cohesion. You know you're.
I
You're
mean, it'd
literally
be
I
good
going
to
guess
to
it
have
have like.
depends.
cohesion, but you can win without it.
Yeah,
You can do, but I
100%.
mean, put it this way: you say you've got 2 good players from that draft, so you're starting off with absolutely nothing other than a couple of defensive players. So now you may, if you draft very well, you may have two really good players. So that gives you a grand total of say 4 or 5 players in your entire roster by season 4, if things go perfectly in the draft.
Mm.
I mean, that's just not enough.
There's free agency. If you're a crap team, you're going to be able to pick up things in free agency.
You will,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they're just. I mean, I've had great free agencies, but look who I've got. They're just bit part players. They're not studs. They're 50 rated guys. I'm not getting
I
a quality
I
wide
think it
receiver. I'm
also
not getting.
depends what you want to do with your roster, how you want to play
Yeah,
as
but
well.
there's not real quality in free agency. Is that they're normally old. So by the time you get to that 4th year, the guy you picked up in your first 1 or 2 free agencies are gone because they were year 8 or 9 anyway. So I think people probably underestimate. You know, if you're starting from absolute dog shit, I think it takes a long time. Because your old guys are going to be gone, your young guys are still going to be. They're going to take a long time to come through. So you get 2 guys on your first draft, you get another 2 on your second draft, another 2 on your third draft. So I mean, to get like 10 or 12 very good players, it's going to take you 7 or 8 years. I sincerely believe that. And you know, Tizak, I mean, he drafts in fantastically well, and it did take him. You know, before his team started to gain traction, he was having 0.500 years, wasn't he?
He was saying a lot of his is he can't win because of the turf. That's what he said quite a bit. I can remember it.
What, because of injuries?
Yeah, that's what he said. That was one of the reasons. You can't win. He actually moved franchise, I think.
Yeah,
But
so,
I also don't
yeah,
think Tizak's heart was really in it, to be honest.
no.
No, I don't
It certainly
think.
was when he joined. I mean, it was when he joined. He might have got. Thing is, it's when things are difficult, Simon. I think your heart can wander. I mean, certainly when he joined. I mean, I listened to the video in the week, and his heart was certainly in it when he made the video. He seemed really into the game. But yeah, I mean, he had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 0.500 seasons in a row. I think it makes a massive difference. What you inherit and what you're coming into, and as I say, it makes a massive difference whether you're prepared to tank. If you're prepared to tank and go into the top 5 to get your draft picks, it's an easy game, isn't it? Because you can get your stud quarterback, you get stud wide receiver, and you're good to go. But if you want to play the game in a genuine manner, it makes your own life much, much harder. So you know, if you only care about winning, lose on purpose, get a couple of top 3 picks, you know, and you're on your way, aren't you? So yeah, it's not straightforward, is it?
I'm not gonna beat myself up because I think I've been a bit lucky. But I didn't. You can remember what the FC West was like. It was a dog before I was there, and before Ryland was there. It was a dog fight. You know, it was 2 or 3 of them every year were 10, 9, and 7, and you know what I mean. None of them had what
Yeah.
you would call great rosters, but they had very functional rosters. And I'd never knock Kevin because I think Kevin's a really good GM, but I didn't have a massive amount. I had maybe uh, a bit of maybe a little bit of a running team, etc. But it was a Kevin team. So like I think with Julio, if you took over his time, you think, oh my God, what have I got here? But he gets it going. And I think Kevin did. I don't think I didn't have a quarterback. I think I had 150-ish wide receiver and I had a couple of defensive bits. And that was about it.
When did you join?
I took over in
55.
55,
It's quite
2055.
amazing. I mean, the difference. You know, you do genuinely look a very, very good GM, and now, but
I like how you're
previously,
not willing to say he is a
Yeah.
good GM. He's just looked
no,
like
I'm not.
one.
I'm not. Absolutely not. Previously, it's not long enough. Previously, he was absolutely horrendous, and that's
I wouldn't
true.
go. Come on, I wouldn't go that far. You
Yeah,
just
you
said
were.
it.
You were terrible.
Hang
You were
on.
terrible, mate.
If you
Yeah,
remember the Browns when I took them over,
yeah,
I
but didn't
had
you
no
like you?
picks. I had no offensive line because I think Tizak had actually had them before me. Do you remember? So
Well, I remember you
you're
having
saying it
losing
takes
season after
8
losing season.
seasons.
I mean, looking back here, it goes 5 wins, 3 wins, 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins. You know, you had Dylan. I mean, that's pretty bad, Simon. Pretty bad.
Well, I drafted Dylan, didn't I? Then I got rid
But
of
you
him.
know, that's the past. Forget
Yeah,
about the past. I
I'm
mean,
not. I first to admit I wasn't a great GM, but I wasn't fucking terrible. That's for sure.
you're pretty terrible. You were. Well, it's my opinion. You know, we could argue all night. But
Yeah,
let me give you a case study, right? Do you remember Steve Rush, who
yeah, yeah.
ran the Chiefs, right?
Kansas. Yeah,
Yes. He was regarded as what? Maybe like a top 5 GM in the league, something like that. Maybe in the 4th, 5th position, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's a fair comment?
No,
No. Okay. Where did you vote? Where would you sort of see him?
I'd have put him a bit lower. I think.
Okay.
I mean, he was terrible in the playoffs, wasn't he?
Okay. Well,
Maybe a bit like yeah,
if you open up the game and then you look at the
yeah. I think he was about fifth or sixth on all time, wasn't he?
yeah, if you
But
look
to me, he
He's
never
third.
built a team.
The Chiefs are third all time in win percentage.
third all time. Yeah. So I mean, if
Yeah.
you looked at the Chiefs' history, yeah, look at the Chiefs' record. Starting in 2017, they basically went on an incredible run, borderline dynasty, depending whether you ask an Englishman or an American or Canadian or an Australian, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you've got probably 20 to 25 years of exceptional performance. And then he ran into struggle street, basically. And
Yeah, from
it was almost like
2034, he's not very good, is it?
basically what happened is he became a victim of his own success in a way. And I think the late round drafting, it really started to catch up with him. And I believe he was a top 5, top 6 GM. And
Okay.
he started he's drafting all that time, you know, 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 sort of thing. And I think eventually it started to catch up with him. And I think at that point, unless you're really, really, really good, you are going to start to drown. And I think that'd be a test for you, Simon, in a way, because if you once the decent players start to drift away and you are consistently at the back end, and Steve did start to drown and he started to lose interest in the game. He's finding it really, really hard. He just couldn't sustain the success because he was drafting so late. And to be honest, other than Rob, nobody has really ever managed to succeed at that level, drafting that late for a really extended period of time. A decade is one thing. You know, you try and do it for 40 seasons. It's really, really hard.
I haven't had 40 seasons yet, and
No,
I'm
you
no
haven't. Exactly.
Rob.
And
I know I'm not.
that's why you cannot judge somebody even on a decade. You can't do it. Because as I say, you look at Steve and you would have said he's absolutely elite, but then he did start to get stick in the mud, and he's still a very, very good GM, but he did start to get stuck when he's consistently drafting late, because it is difficult, because you start to run out of skill players. And you know, as I say, yeah, you could go the offensive line route, and if you can make that work consistently, fantastic. But yeah, Steve, he was a good case study for me. So as I say, I always will say, let's look where you are 30, 40 seasons.
So, who would you say were your 5 up until the point you kind of left? Who would you say were your top 5 GMs at that point? You and Rob, obviously.
in this league.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob was really, to be honest, head and shoulders above everybody else. Truthfully, you know, I don't feel that it was particularly close. You know,
You've
he's
got
the only
you two,
person.
Rush. So two
Yeah,
others.
I mean, Rob's the only one that has been able to hold that position over the long term. Nobody else could do it, could they? Really? Yeah,
I'm just looking.
everybody else.
No.
Nobody else had that sort of consistency. There's not anybody else that could do that. So,
Julio,
yeah,
would you put him near the?
no. I mean,
Considering he was
very,
in
very.
Rob's division as well.
Yeah, exceptionally good, GM,
Okay.
exceptionally good, but not that level because he has dipped like everybody else. So you could talk about Max,
Yeah.
Julio, Steve, these players who had moments where they looked as good as anybody over a certain amount of time, 10, 20 seasons, but then they hit the shit and they struggled.
Okay.
And, that's just, that's how I see it. And that's why I'm looking at Tom and thinking, is Tom, he's certainly a Max, Julio, Steve level GM, but he needs more time to show that he is a truly elite GM and have these really, really difficult situations, lose key players and show that he can bridge the gap. Yeah, you with me?
Yeah.
Because that's extremely difficult to do.
Okay. Well, he's probably going to lose Harrington this season or next, so I guess we will have a on how you mark it. We will see what he does next.
It's still not. Yeah, I mean, you've got to give it time. I mean, even as I say, I mean, Steve didn't start to, and Julio, they may have had 20 seasons while they were doing really, really well, but Rob's like looking at pushing what we now. How many years we played? 50.
Over that now, I think.
I mean,
I
he's
think
holding
we're
it
coming
together.
up. Yeah, we played 50 a couple of seasons back.
So I mean, he's holding it together for 50 seasons.
I don't think the league's going to probably be here for a lot for me or Tom to get to 50. We're running out of GMs.
We're not going. No, I think it probably will.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, but we'll see, won't we? I mean, it's not that long, is it? You tick through, another decade, and we'll be you'll be well over that mark. We'll see, we'll see. But I don't want to dominate the conversation too much. But you do ask me these questions, and I get carried away.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we better get on with the game planning then. So where do we want to start, guys? I think the main one that people asked for, well, actually put a bit of everything, didn't they? So
yeah, I mean, I got 4 bullet points, right? And I won't go into any of them deeply, but just so that you, I mean, I thought T-Zac's video was superb. I really do. And I was struggling to think how. Pardon?
Took me a lot, I'll tell you.
Yeah. I mean, it's I wanted to make sure that we didn't just repeat, because I could easily just go and repeat what he said, which I don't want to do. So a few points that I think I think we should go into. I don't think he went into the balance enough. In terms of when you write a game plan, just for example, on a passing play, you need to think about the player you're throwing to, the position that you're throwing to, as in split end flanker, etc., the formation you're throwing in, the passing distances. There's a lot to balance, and you can easily bugger yourself up. As I said on the forum, you can completely destroy your whole franchise if your balance is off. System, I think my team's a fantastic example of system. If you look at team statistics, the only thing we can do is throw the ball long. Team statistics, miscellaneous passing offense. We've got no getting downfield whatsoever, and as a result, we pass for 3.98 yards per pass short, because we haven't got any getting downfield. Not through choice, but we can throw the ball long very, very well, and that's because we have a lot of BPR in a couple of guys, and that was basically the same last year, because we have no GD and we do have BPR. So that's just an example of your players, how much they can impact the system.
Yeah.
Just and then skipping along. volatility of plays was something else he didn't talk about on offense. I mean, defense is a separate thing. I don't know if you want to talk about that, but volatility of plays, both running and passing plays. And volatility can be positive or negative. You need to consider when do you want to put a highly volatile play in and when do you want to put a low volatility play and things like that. He didn't sort of cover that too much. So yeah, that's sort of the broad topics. You know, I could waffle on about any of them for half an hour, but you know, you decide what you want to talk about, guys.
Well, no, Ryder, I've been talking. Ryder, go on, you go first.
Okay, well, why don't you dial in a little bit on the volatility and where those are optimally placed in a playbook?
Okay. Again, I'm aware that I'm dominating the conversation. I didn't really want to, but you know, essentially, when you call a play, whether it's running or passing, just I think be aware that you're choosing a certain level of volatility, a level of risk. And as I say, it's upside and downside. So if you throw long, you have very, very high volatility. You throw short, your volatility is very, very low. So, you know, how much risk are you comfortable with? Where do you want to put in the risk? Where do you want to take chances?
So one of the reasons I put in the poll for this was schemes. You know, so I myself, I have a scheme and I've just changed it, but I've played to that. And that's kind of running the ball and basically keeping the ball safe and playing defense.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean, yeah, it's all interwoven with your players you've got, though, isn't it? I mean,
but I build my roster to that, where Rob would build a roster to. Rob loves to pass, so he'll take the risks, etc., because he can then turn around and score quickly. I think.
And it's. I mean, traditionally, what I used to do was run the ball every single time on 1st and 10 possession with my old school team. Like literally every single time, 1st and down possession, I was running the ball.
Yeah.
Because it's the lowest volatility. I typically ran between the tackles. In the help file, it says you should only run 10% either end.
Yeah.
10% left end, 10% right end.
You always had a great offensive line as well, didn't you?
Me?
Yeah. But I remember you had.
I don't remember, mate. Did I? I don't even remember.
Yeah, you had some monsters.
Did I? Okay. Yeah. Offensive line, I know that was ridiculous.
Offensive line, so I'm saying, yeah.
Offensive line.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. My offensive line was superb. It always was. But so, I mean, traditionally, you know, what an NFL team will do is on possession, they will play very, very tight. As they approach the midfield, they will start to open up their playbook and take more risk.
Yeah,
you know, that's how they tend to operate. And
then we can't do that in this game, can we?
Well, we can to some degree because we've got possession 1st and 10, and we've got earned 1st and 10. So you know that earned is going to be at least
the second drive or the third,
11 yards down the field. So so I mean, you can start to crank up risk there. You know, theoretically, that is the smarter thing to do. It's not something I'm doing right now because I haven't got a lot of options. I'm just playing like a lunatic and praying. But that's what I like to do, is just open up as I went down the field. And then obviously short yardage, you need to be thinking about how you want to approach this. Do you want to throw long, etc.? Again, it depends on your team. On say 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2, do you just want to get first down? Do you want to use that down as an extra down and go down the field? Short yardage, 3rd down, you know, again, do you just want to chug and try and push through the middle, or do you want to catch the defense in some sort of aggressive man-to-man defense and go over the top? It's, you know, it's all choice, and it all depends on the quality of your players. I don't think there's a right and wrong game plan. You can't say, it's best to, you know, run inside on 2nd and 2, or you can't say it's best to throw long in 2nd and 2. You've got to look at the players you've got. I mean, you know, it's not a right and wrong thing. I mean, on short yardage 3rd down, you can, if you want, start looking at defensive tendencies of the opposition. How aggressively does the opposition, if you want to go into that sort of detail, which I know most people probably wouldn't, but you know, a lot of people don't touch their defensive game plan. They just leave it there. And then so you can go into the logs and see how he's defending 3rd down. Do you want to, you know, try and take advantage of that? Or, you know, do you want to mix it up?
To interject quickly, What percentage of people do you think are altering their defensive game plan?
I would say less than half.
What do you
Yeah, I
think, Simon?
agree. Definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even their offensive game plan.
Well,
Yeah.
I
I
think
think
some.
offense changes less than defense.
Yeah,
I think.
I,
Sorry, Nick, go on.
I think most people are a sitting duck, and if you did this for a living, what you should be doing is spending a few hours per game, literally, because you know exactly what's coming, and you've got the opportunity, if you want to get the perfect plays in order, because everybody's a sitting duck and they're static. But obviously, this is just a game, so you know realistically, you probably don't want to spend that sort of time doing it. But the option's there if you want to. If somebody's not moving their game plans around, you know exactly what's coming, don't you? You can go through the logs and you can literally recreate their game plan if you wanted to do that.
I
And
don't
then
think you even need to go that far, to be honest, with some of the GMs
it's
that
not
are.
going to give you a massive edge anyway, because as you know, as I said, I mean,
Mm.
you've got dice rolls which are massive. You've got player talent which is massive. It's going to give you an edge. And as I say, if we were doing this for a living, that'd be the best way to do it. But it's going to give you, a small edge. But it's not. If you're playing a blatantly better team or you get horrendous dice rolls, you're going to lose anyway. So
I can't say. I'm speaking from my experience with the Raiders, yeah. So I always felt that because I ran the ball a lot and I played safe, my games were reasonably tight. And it was amazing how many times I sat there, watched Soul Vision, and I'm down by a score, and I'm thinking, I just ain't coming back here. I'm just not. And then my defense suddenly got a turnover, and it changed the game massively. So you're saying that just one or two plays on the game planning doesn't really affect things, but if a game's tight, I think it does massively.
well, I think dice rolls are much more, well, not much more, but they are more influential. I mean, how many times do you see the perfect call and it goes in your face? You
Yeah.
know, it
But
does.
I,
It
I
does.
think you can manipulate things, can't you, to a certain degree?
You can
So
put
for it,
probabilities in your favour, but
yeah,
that those figures I put on the forum, I think the quality of the team is far and away the most important thing.
yeah,
Secondary, I would say, is dice rolls, and then third, game plans. So I mean, it gives you an edge, but I don't think if the dice don't like you,
yeah.
then you're
There's
done
some
for.
game,
Or,
yeah.
or
There's
if,
some
if there's
games.
a blatant talent gap,
Yeah,
you're done.
sometimes you just start watching the first quarter, and you know you've lost because everything's going against you, don't you? And you just
Yeah,
haven't got the dice. I get that, but I think as well, you can look at some teams and you think, well, they've got a bit of a running game, they've got a bit of a passing game. They're not really sure what they're doing on defense, and a person who puts together a scheme of some sort, like you used to do with your running game, has a
mm.
big advantage. And if they game plan right with that as well,
I think they have an advantage. I don't think it's big. I mean, if you haven't got the right team,
that's what
you
I'm
can
saying. Yeah,
put
if you've
you
got
can put the best team, your best game plan in the world. I mean, if you haven't got the
yeah,
right team, you're not going to
no,
get
that's
anywhere.
what I'm saying about building the scheme. If you've got
Yeah,
a good run team or a good short passing team, or like Rob who likes to go deep, etc. If you've built the team around that, then your game plan as well goes with it. You win a
yeah,
lot of games because other people aren't doing that.
Well, I had a question
yeah.
specifically about talent versus game plan, because I think there's situations like I think Rob has such a good game plan that if you dropped a lesser wide receiver into his flanker role, they would still put up 1,000 yards.
Um, I would probably lean towards disagreeing. Really, I mean, personally, I think these high-powered passing teams. Well, I mean, if you look at T-Zax as well, I mean, he had like 470 rated receivers and a great tight end. I mean, if you haven't got the talent, you really cannot get the job done, in my opinion. I don't believe that the game plan can do that. It's not powerful enough. You need the talent. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that most of my success was largely based on having good talent and just having them do things they could do. I mean, Rob's got guys that can pretty much do everything. I think if he didn't have those guys, I think he'd be a totally different team personally.
I know I've got a pretty much all passing team in another league where the quarterback is elite and the receivers are just like 50 or less, and
Yeah.
we're still going to the playoffs every year.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at the team. I mean, what the cohesion is, what the offensive line is like. How much are they actually passing compared with running? It's it's very difficult without looking at something specifically. Is it an all-pass team or is it just a team that passes a lot?
It's a team that passes a lot.
Yeah, and what is their average per carry rushing, things like that?
It's very high because they barely ever rush
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how far you want to go. I mean, my offensive line is so bad that even when I rush very, very few times, my yards per carry is still horrifically bad. So yeah, I mean, that's still
You're rushing
the
better than
balance.
Simon is.
That's my quarterback. That's not my running backs.
I see.
My running backs are dying. They're just
I mean,
getting
T-Zac,
absolutely
one
mullered.
thing I picked out from T-Zacs, which really helped me,
Yeah,
was the more you run, the better
Yeah.
your passing game is.
absolutely. So if you want to run an all pass, in my opinion, you need to have absolutely dominant forces at the quarterback and wide receiver position. You need to have dominance, and if you haven't got that, you've got a problem. So that's why I'm saying, I'm not of the opinion that Rob would do anywhere near as well if he didn't have those wide receivers and that 10-year veteran stud quarterback. I've never felt truthfully that Rob's game plan was that good. Not wishing to offend him. I've always felt that his drafting was exceptional and his trading was exceptional. His team is exceptional. The talent is exceptional. The game plan isn't. That's
Yeah,
that's
I'd agree with that. If you look at Rob's roster most years, his is number one for talent, and it's everywhere. You can't, when you game plan against him, you just think, shit.
His offensive line is actually quite ropey at the moment. Unusual, very unusual.
I mean, it's a little young, but it's not bad.
Yeah, young. Well, yeah, if you look at how good they are right now, I mean, and they're dumb. He's been picking up dumb offensive linemen. So, yeah, I do think his talent has slipped since I was in the league, but not a lot, to be fair. But
I think he's had to sell off a bit through.
And he's had to go in. As I say, he's had to get these dumb linemen. He's had to accept dumbness, which is not good for me. Yeah, I mean, his skill positions are still ludicrously good. But one thing I was going to say is, it's really, really interesting if you went into single player and simmed a week, and then went back and sim that week again, sim it again, and it's absolutely amazing the different results you get. It really illustrates the power of the dice. It's absolutely insane. You'll find that most games in a week could go either way. Most games.
Is that with the same game plan on either side, or
everything being completely equal? Everything's completely equal. I mean, I first did this in my very, very first league that I played in. Mark Bradbrook used to run it.
The Real Deal.
RDFL, yeah. So I had this epically dominant team, ludicrously dominant. And Mark was a mate of mine that I knew before front office football, English guy. And he ran the league. I played him in the bowl, I think it was. And everybody was convinced we were just going to steamroller him because he was like a wild card. He was lucky to even get in the bowl and thought we were going to kill him. And he won. And just for a laugh, he didn't tell anybody, but he re-simmed this bowl in many, many times. And literally, the next 6 times, we won it. And that sort of opened my eyes and thought, we take these results as gospel, and they're really not. Week to week.
How can you do that?
We just don't save, do you?
But sure, you had to save the first bowl because that was
the same game. I'm saying he's re-simming the same game. You can re-sim.
Right.
Yeah, you can re-sim, and you can re-sim any week you wanted to do it. You could re-sim, and as I say, most games you'll find that they could go either way, and even the most one-sided games, the bad team have got a 20% chance of winning. even like the most lopsided. So what you see on a week-to-week basis almost always can go either way. But when dice, the thing with dice is over the long haul, they will start to even out. A week-to-week basis, anything can happen. So if you lose a game, it could be that you're the better team and you should have won, or vice versa. But over the long haul, that's when you really start to see the truth, if you know what I mean.
So what's a sample size that makes sense to you then to be relevant?
Over in terms of
To
what we talking?
eliminate the dice to being the deciding factor.
I think over 50 seasons, dice will become almost completely, well, not completely, but getting towards complete insignificance. I think over that sort of length of time, you'll start to see the truth come out. Over a season, you can get. We used to resim seasons in, what was it? The Money League. That guy used to give away money to people when they won.
He was in our league. He was the
Yeah, I used to play in that
GM
league.
for
I
us.
used to play in that league. I
You gave me an absolute bum quarterback, Nick.
Yeah, I won thousands in that league. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I won thousands of dollars. This guy used to send me thousands of dollars. And how Firefly, what he used to do is at the start of the year, he would sim a whole season, right? And publish it.
Yeah.
Sim the season again, publish it. Sim the season again, publish it.
Yeah.
And you'd have 10 seasons on the forum of the results of just injuries off, and with that he'd divide the 10 seasons, and you would get your average how many wins you should get.
Yeah.
And so I might say I should.
And if you went 11. Above it or below it, yeah.
Exactly. So I should get 11, but you were getting teams that one year they injuries off. 1 year they won 6 games. The next you sim it again, they won 12. That's the sort of spread you were getting. So that over one season, it's absolutely insane. And it was that wide. It was literally 6 to 12.
But saying that though, we're still if you say that's the case, we're still seeing the likes of you, Rob, and a few other GMs constantly getting 9, 10, 11 seasons. So it can't be dice, can it? Because otherwise Rob would be losing quite a few.
But Rob would probably be in that terms. He'd probably be like a 15-16 team down to 9-10, and he ends up with 12 or 13. So if you're, I'd say there can be a 6-game swing roughly as a maximum. So if you are, if you do get 13, you could have been a 16 or you could have been a 10.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, if you take this, so I speak to Rob quite a bit now, and here's how he got beaten by Adam, his mate, the Ravens, and he's sitting there and he's going, "Man, that's going to cost me. Man, that's going to cost me."
How's that? Yeah, and 9 out of 10 times he should have won.
He knows he should be winning that game.
Yeah, of course.
When was this?
Yeah, and that's like like a giant killing you get in football. Where FA Cup, big team plays a little team, they don't like the pitch or whatever, and So and I'm not knocking Adam here at all, by the way. No. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this is the power of the dice. And you could discuss dice on running teams versus dice on passing teams and things like that. I mean, there is a line of thinking that running teams are less likely to have volatility.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Probably. I've never tested it, but
I don't think that's arguable.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, we're here to kind of give some people some tips, basically, aren't we? So what kind of tips can we give them or try and help them with?
Well, Simon, you said you learned a lot from the TZAC video. What have you implemented that has turned your fortunes around?
Well, I put a scheme in place. That was the first thing I did because I basically had very little the first season. Well, I had bits and pieces. And I thought the only way I could win was to run the ball and try and play defense, make the game short by controlling the ball. And that's what I did. And it kind of evolved from there. And I kept on doing that. So the things that I implemented, particularly from Zach's video, was I went and got a really safe QB. So QB with high AI, and that was, I think I got him from Max. And it's funny, my quarterback at the moment I got from Max. I can't remember his name. What was
Butler?
he? Yeah. So he was only about a 42, 43 rated guy, but I put him in place. He was really safe. I ran the ball and I had a guy called Perez, who I think I traded eventually to Squirrels Jets, and he had nice route running in high downfield. And I always remember Nick having good tight ends, and I think tight ends are quite hard to defend against. So I kind of always try to get a decent tight end with route running and downfield.
So what do you
Then
want your tight end to do?
Me
Yeah.
just be a guy who can get me 6-7 yards, particularly on third down.
So what are you running with him?
Be,
What kind of routes what kind of routes are you trying to have him do?
so short. Anything so not screen, so short in, short out. I think Will was about the longest. I might have thrown in a few ones. He was also really good in red zone. So combining all that, I also picked up. I've never really taken much notice of courage, and I can't say it definitely worked, but I wouldn't pass to anyone much who had below 40 coverage over the middle. So I always give them outside routes. And that's basically what I did. And then I built a defense. As you probably know, with Najira shutting down Workman all the time. And that's all I did. And I just kept on. And when it came to the draft, rather than, maybe drafting a better player when it came to my pick, I picked a player who would then fit in that scheme and fill the space of an older guy, and that's what I did. And that's what I've continued to do until I think I traded with Max and I picked up 1.3 out of it. So I got Banks. And I kind of took a leaf out of Rob's book and thought, fuck it, I'm fed up of losing in the playoffs. I'm going to go and get a top 3 pick. So I got that. And then
I'm very curious about that. I've had people ask me about that.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm getting there.
Sorry.
So wide receivers are like gold in this league, right? Everybody thinks wide receivers are what you need.
Yeah, I think for me, if you look at my record, I make it to the playoffs I have, I think 9-10 years on the trot, and then I lose. I might win the odd game, but I lose. And that's my feeling is because I'm playing better teams and maybe better GMs. And I didn't have the big weapons to pull that big play out.
So you needed a good wide receiver, was what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I had good wide receivers who did a good job in my scheme, but they couldn't go and win a game on their own.
Okay, so
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we're all agreeing that wide receivers are highly valuable.
Yeah,
especially the top ones. So
yeah,
what did you do to convince the GM picking at the top of the draft when there's an elite wide receiver there to give that up?
Well, I think so. With Crane, I got a couple of years ago.
This year you just got up to 1-3 or so, right?
So I think Pitt put his pick up there. He told me he got offered a load of old guys. Blah 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 blah. So I don't think people thought the wide receiver class was great this year. And he said he'd been offered a load of older guys, this, that, and the other. Hadn't really been given picks.
That sounds like Rob. That's Rob, I bet.
Yeah. So I said, name your price. And he named it. And I said, there you go. And I know Pitt. Pitt will tell you he procrastinates a lot. I was like, it took about 3.5 days for him to do the deal. And I was like, please, even though he'd agreed it, I was like, please post it before someone else comes in and gets him.
I hate that feeling. I hate that feeling.
Yeah. So, I think my guy was good, but no one expected to come out quite as good as he did. So, you know,
How about you then, Royland? Do you normally play the way you're playing now, or have you tried the passing approach, or do you play the passing approach elsewhere?
I've got a passing team in the USFL. I traded 21 draft picks for the 1-1, got a stud quarterback, and
21. What was that here?
no, it's in the USFL.
Oh, Jesus.
It was in this league that I traded 21 picks for Workman, I think.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? I can remember now, yeah.
Yeah.
So do you value do you prefer one approach over the other, or
I think for me it's easier to be a running GM. Um,
yeah,
because wide receivers are hard to get,
yeah,
right? It's a lot easier to draft an O-line and find whatever at running back.
yeah,
But I don't know. I also do think that it's obviously lower volatility, and
yeah,
so you're putting yourself in a more advantaged situation. I don't like being in 2nd and 10. I'll tell you that. I hate
mm,
I hate 2nd and 10. So I'd rather be in 2nd and 7, or whatever it is. So even a shit run of 3 yards, that feels a lot better than 2nd and 10.
And how do you feel about intelligence on the offensive line? To what degree do you weight that versus the ratings?
Uh, it basically depends what round you're picking in, right?
Yeah,
I don't want to pick a dumb guy in the first round.
no,
In the second round, all right, I'm starting to think about it, and by the third round, sure, why not?
that's
Uh,
what Rob's doing. I noticed that Rob is picking up quality linemen in the third round, but they're done.
Yeah, can I add something here though? I think if you run the ball, yeah, you're making first downs by the odd yard. You may be taking 3 downs to get it if you're running the ball.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah. So if I found, particularly when I was running the ball, you've got to have smart guys
right.
because
Yeah,
one
100%.
5 yard penalty, you're
Yeah,
fucked. Where if
yeah,
you're a Rob and you've got 3 star wide receivers there, you
4.
can get a chunk, yeah, or 4. You can get a chunk play from one day, one
but
guy.
the
So you
thing
can
is,
afford.
you're on the field longer as a running team. You're on the field, and sooner or later, with
Mm,
a dumb offensive line, you are going to get your penalties. You're going to get your holding penalties, and they're probably, they stand
yeah,
a good chance of screwing you over. Whereas a passing team, you're not going to be on the field as long. So I think
Yeah, you guys are agreeing
intelligent,
with each other.
yeah,
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 yeah. See, if you're running the ball, you need a smart offense.
yeah,
100%. I think.
yeah,
yeah. There's like the passing game has more volatility, more chunk plays. You
Mm.
can get over penalties easier.
The same with the sack as
yeah,
well. If you're running the ball regularly, if you go deep, there's more chance you're going to get sacked, I feel. So again, if you're a running team, you can't take sacks, you can't take penalties. You've just got to be Mr. Boring, Joe Average, and just move up that field and hope
yeah.
you'll break a play here or there.
I always like to play good special teams. I mean, regardless, but I think particularly with a running team, I like to play that field position game, get the special
Yeah.
teams. Low mistakes. If you don't turn the ball over, play good special teams, you're really, really hard to beat.
So I've got a question on this that I'd like to ask. Yeah, on special teams. So we obviously know you need X amount of players, and linebackers are pretty important, etc. And we want guys with high special teams, high intelligence for obvious reasons. Do you know how does the game pick the 9? Does it literally pick the 9 highest?
No.
Um, Go on, Rylan, you go.
Well, I just know that it doesn't obviously pick the 9 highest. Like if you don't pay close attention to it, it'll have guys that have lower special teams playing more than higher special teams.
So Simon, that there's encouraged and not encouraged, do you?
Yes, yes. So you
Yeah,
go in, you turn off. Yeah, so I normally pick like 12 or 13 guys. Yeah. And they're
yeah,
normally
yeah. So
guys with high special teams.
that'll massively improve the chances of a guy playing.
Yeah.
If he's encouraged or not. So that's the main thing, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
I do actually think there are some little weird things that mean that certain players are more likely to play special teams. I've never looked too deeply into it, but I think you might find like your backup running back and backup tight end might be more likely to play special teams, that sort of thing. Haven't looked massively into it. But the key thing really is to get guys encouraged or
Why
not
do you
encouraged.
think that is then, Nick? Why do you think it chooses a backup running back? Any
It's
idea?
just something I've noticed. I don't know why it does it, but it's just
it lists who's the starter is and who isn't, and if it's got a choice of tiring out a starter or getting a backup some plays, it's going to go with the backup.
Yeah. I just had
had
zero special teams guys, and just because they're zero special teams, I'm raging because they keep playing special teams even though they're not encouraged. And I'm thinking, why is this guy getting so many bloody snaps? And I think it's because of the position he's in. So I start the guy, let him, be the starter, and all of a sudden he doesn't play as many special team snaps. So yeah, I think kind of going back to what Ryan said. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, going back to balance, as I say, I think all successful GMs have got a reasonably good understanding of balance. But I think if you were really, really struggling, I know there are certain GMs in this league that do screw themselves with balance on offense, as in calling certain plays too many times, not understanding that certain formations are more sensitive than others. Obviously 1-1-3 is the most used, but then you've got these formations. I would never call more than one play on these, your 0-1-4, 0-0-5, 0-2-3, these sort of formations. I'd only call it once in the game plan. And I actually only ever call, any plays twice. That just gives you that insulation against the familiarity.
Twice is enough. And if I have a third one, it's right at the bottom of that section.
Yeah, I don't use third ones ever, so I don't get familiar. So that just helps.
Are you saying plays are only called once for you, Nick, or twice?
Twice. Like if it's a 1-1-3 or a 1-2-2, I'm happy to call it twice. If it's one of the weirder formations, then just the once.
Okay.
You can call them three times, but then once in a blue moon, the AI will probably call it a fourth time. Because sometimes they do pluck plays out, don't they? And then at that point, you could be nobbled. Whereas if you do call it only twice, then if it plucks out for a third time, it shouldn't kill you. If it's well-used formation.
Do you feel that there is a bonus to sharing out your targets?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, if you're hitting, I think probably roughly speaking, 12 targets, roughly.
Yeah.
Then you're starting to, depending on the player, but then you're starting to get into that diminishing returns after, say, 12 targets in a game, roughly speaking, depending on the player. Now, it's not to say that you might want to throw it to the same guy 17 or 18 times if he's that good and your other receivers are that bad. You might. But, I mean, when Zullo was throwing it to this guy crazy amounts of times, that amazing receiver he's got, it's too many times. And he's getting diminishing returns. And I'm finding that I'm really struggling because I've got no tight end. I've got three wide receivers. I've got no running back that can catch, no tight end that can catch. And I'm really, really on the edge of, diminishing returns. And the receivers aren't that good to begin with. So as a result, it's just a nightmare, basically. It's an absolute nightmare.
So for the league then, when you say you're getting diminishing results, is that in the receivers maybe not catching as many, or are we also talking? I know the answer to this, but some might. So are we saying more interceptions as well would be thrown?
Just look at the guy as no, I wouldn't say so, but just look at the guy as getting tired. That's the best way to look at it. He's getting tired, so you get an overall percentage reduction on the receiver's ability. So if he's at an 80, he's going to gradually wear down to the point of just being a complete mess. If you throw it to the guy 35 times in a game, he's probably by the end of it like a 25 rated receiver, that kind of thing. So he's just wearing down and he's reducing in his effectiveness. So I would just look at it as a percentage drop on his bars.
Yeah, you can see if you play single player and call your own plays, you can see that. Actually tells you, and it takes players out. Yeah, because they're.
I've never done that, Simon. Can you elaborate on that a little?
So I think if you listen to the Zach video, well, I think he said it in there. So he learned by playing his own calls, right? So if you play single player and call your own plays, You can choose who you throw the ball to, etc., every play. Yeah. And your players will wear down. So if I throw
Yeah.
to my top receiver 6 times running, it will then start to, that player will start to wear down, and you see it, and he will eventually be, he's too knackered to play. So you have to take him out. And it's not just one play, it's one or two. That's why I haven't done it in 8 or 9 years, but I think that's how Zach originally learned to play.
Yeah. Oh, that's how I say it. I've never done it.
No.
Never done that, but that's how I perceive the game to work. But I would also add, you've got to be a little bit careful of position. I mean, you may be switching two guys in and out, say it's split end, but if you keep throwing to the split end position, I think you can also get a familiar based on the position. It's not necessarily all about the player.
But
So
do you
player,
also think not only a familiar, but also the defence expects it to go that way? So there's, say, a
yeah,
-1 dice roll if you
yeah,
throw a short out to the X guy 5 times in 10 play. Do
yeah,
you feel?
yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember Jim said something. I used to write these things on the forum, and I tend to remember stuff like that. But he said familiars actually kick in before it's even mentioned in the logs, but they're only
Yeah,
at
I
a
remember that.
smaller,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, at a minor level. So when you see the defense looks familiar with this play, it's actually been happening beforehand. So that's way too late then. So
Yeah.
you want to bear that in mind. Just because you're not getting familiars in your logs doesn't mean to say that you're not,
Mm.
losing or
Yeah.
being worn down
Do
a
you
little bit.
think you see
Anyway,
that in the game? So sometimes you can, for 2.5 quarters, you're running the ball and you're making
yeah,
4, 5, 6, and then suddenly
yeah,
you hit that brick wall.
yeah.
There
I mean,
doesn't seem to be any reason for that. Would you say that's the reason for that?
yeah. I mean, I see it with my Falcons. I'm seeing it because we simply haven't got enough targets. We can't run the ball at all. We're terrible. So I have to pass, and I don't have enough decent targets to be able to spread the ball around as much as I'd like to. And you do start. The team will often come out really, really fast. Not all the time,
Mm.
but it has done in several games. Like maybe scoring the first 4 or 5 possessions and then literally just fall on their ass because I'm
Yeah.
starting to get. I don't ever have familiars labelled, but I do think I think it's under the surface. I think it's going against me, and also probably my receivers are getting tired as well. That's probably might be more of that than
Mm.
anything.
Do you use many situational players? So a
I
guy
haven't
who,
got,
so you're saying there, for
yeah,
instance, that you can't really throw to a running back. But, I mean, like I always used to have a running back who was shit at everything, but he can't catch the ball, and I would put him in on a certain down and distance. So like 2 tight end set and
yeah.
aim
But
at him.
that would be nice, but I haven't got any. I
Okay.
just my talent is really really bad. I haven't got a tight end. I haven't got a running back that can catch.
I had an offer for a tight end actually. Can't
Oh,
think
who's
of.
that from? That's
I don't know,
interesting.
Nick. Who was that?
Don't know. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I've got one good receiver. I've got it's a shit state. It really, really is a shit state. So I can't do what I want to do because I haven't got the personnel to do it. So that's. I mean, obviously, I got Terrell in, so I don't regret it. But I had no draft picks and had to mortgage our future to get him. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't regret that. But it is still early, so I've got to have patience.
I feel
But
like you're talking Colin Henry down a lot.
he's very, very good. He's very good, but he's only one man. That's the problem. He's excellent. He is excellent. I like him a lot, but he's one man. And I passed him 193 times last season. I've passed him 85 times in 6 games, and he can only do so much. I'm hitting that. With Zolo with his 85 rated guy, whatever he is. I'm doing the same. I'm using him absolutely as much as possible, but he is suffering diminishing returns because I'm using him too much because he's my only weapon. So I need 4 of those guys, and I haven't got them. But let's not talk about me anyway.
Well, I'm looking at Pittsburgh, jumping back into
Yeah,
how they're able to use their players. They have,
yeah.
they're throwing to 3 or maybe 4 guys, and
They've got depth. Yeah,
his 3 main guys are all averaging 8 yards a target plus.
yeah, they will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's got such depth that he can spread the ball around.
But he's
I
not
And
mean,
really
Rob
he's
goes.
not really spreading the ball
Rob goes.
down. He's throwing it a ton to 3 guys,
let's
and
have a look. Yeah, well, what you call a ton and what I call a ton is that the same thing? Let's have a look.
over 100 targets. You'll get your picture.
Yeah, that's not a ton. No, that's not a ton. As I said, I think 12 targets per game. So 12 times 16. Well, that's like what, 180 targets a game, 180 targets a season. So 100 targets, I don't call a lot. I mean, he's not throwing to anybody anywhere close to what I'm throwing to Henry. So he's throwing within the acceptable limits. I'm not throwing within the acceptable limits. So
I mean,
I've got
you threw Henry 5 more passes than he threw Lane. That's completely the same.
when was this? Last year?
Yeah.
Okay, let me have a look. Yeah, maybe last year. I'm looking at last year.
Right,
Where
and
are
calls
we?
out Nick.
Where are we? Targets. Yeah, so Duncan got 300, which we all agree is too many, right?
Yeah.
I would but he got 7.5 yards a target. Like
Yeah,
that.
but look how good he is. Look how good he is.
Well, he's insane, obviously.
I'm not saying it's night and day. I mean, I'm saying that he's hitting, what's 300 then? That's sort of like 18, 19. So this guy could be getting 9 yards a target, couldn't he? I would imagine he could get 9 yards a target if we trim that figure down to, say, 180, don't you think?
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
he's phenomenal.
It would be
He's
hard.
amazing.
It would be hard.
What do you think he would get? Do you not think that he's getting trimmed on his yards per target then?
I do think
By going to
a
the
little
300?
bit, but I don't like
Yeah.
if you look at like the drop off to his other receivers, he's got other capable guys, but they're not going to be getting 8 or 9 yards a target if he went to them instead.
Yeah.
I think
Let me
his
explain it.
drops would go down.
Let me explain to you this way, right? It's a little bit like dice. It's when you look at a whole season, I'm not throwing to Henry too much, but I cannot sit there and control how many times Henry gets the ball. So Henry may get the ball in a game anything between, say, 9 and 20 times. The times that I throw to the ball to Henry 20 times, I don't want to, and that's killing us. I want to throw it to him, say, 12, 13 times. But you're not in complete control of how many targets a guy gets in one game. So when you get up to 20 targets and a guy, with a guy of that ability, it's a killer. Over the season, you see 193 targets. It doesn't look that bad. But
I'm guessing as well. He's picking up more double teams from the people who
probably,
do
but in
bother.
certain games, I am getting mullered. Another thing would be to look at Duncan and the games that he's getting like 25 to 27 targets. So if we went into Duncan last year when he had 300 targets, open it up and look at each individual game, and you'll see the first two
I play him
games.
twice a year. It's ridiculous.
The first two games, he had 27 targets and he only averaged 5.7. 25 targets, 6.8. Now, the next game, he only had 17 targets and he averaged 12.1. And
Right.
But then he had 11. Yeah, but then
It's
he had
not
11 targets and only averaged 6.6.
Yeah, it's not cause and effect. So it's not, because there's massive amount of variables going on.
I
But
mean, it's the games he's losing where they're forced to pass more than they probably want to, where his targets get inflated.
that's right.
In the game where he has 200 yards on 17 targets, they won 27-0. So he's getting efficient targets in optimal situations.
Yeah, but I think there is a time when an excess of targets will start to drain the player, and I think it will start to cause diminishing returns.
Well,
But
this
how
is a
much
good
that
example of
is,
what you were saying. You can't control how many targets he's getting, right?
no, you can't control it. So I mean, it's a matter of debate, and I wouldn't put a finer point on just how much it impacts, but I do believe there is an impact. There is an impact by, if you throw the ball to a guy on every single play.
Yeah, I completely and utterly agree. Yeah.
Yeah, but how much it is, I'd be lying if I said I knew. I don't, but I do believe that is an impact.
So
Yeah.
I want to jump back to this real quick. I don't know that we can actually get a conclusion out of it, but Duncan getting 7.5 yards a target on 300 targets. I think most people in the league, if you told them they could have 300 targets and average 7.5 yards a throw on them, would be happy.
Yeah,
No matter how highly
yeah,
overrated their player was, that's a lot of
yeah.
production.
But Duncan is that good, isn't he? Duncan is that good. So when
And
you've got
he's
a
got
guy,
the best rated QB in the league as well.
yeah, I mean, but he is that good. So when you've got a guy that's that good, yeah, you are going to throw the ball to him a lot, and maybe you are happy to throw it to him 300 times. That's debatable. But when you've got a guy who is, say, 60 rated, you don't want to throw it to him 300 times because the odds are the guy that's only 50 rated is probably worth throwing to him, rather than just throwing to your best guy every single time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the drop off is a huge factor. The difference
Yeah,
between the primary and secondary target.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you've got a guy of that ability, you might want to ride your horse, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's but how many of us have got players that good? It's
Just him and Rob, I
tricky.
guess, and soon to be Simon.
Seem to be Simon. Yeah. How many targets do you consider that optimal then, Simon?
Who,
To go to
me?
your guy. Yeah, over a
But,
season
well,
when he's fully developed.
I don't know, to be honest, Nick, because
No.
I've been a running team for 10 years, and suddenly overnight I've now kind of got passing weapons, and I've almost switched what I'm doing, half I guess by accident and half by plan. Um, I lost my best lineman on the resim when the game turned over, so I had to change. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Crane's doing all right for me, and he's getting 10 to 12, but I feel that's too many. I need to actually adjust my game plan.
Yeah. I mean, I think 10 to 12 is okay, but the problem is that one game you might get 6 and the next one you might get 18. It's never going to be 10 to 12 every single time, is it?
Yeah. I mean, put it
Even if
this
you
way,
run the same game plan.
I would rather have my best player fresh on third down plays or in the red zone.
Mm.
So I'd rather keep him to maybe a little bit more than the other guys, but when I want to pass to him and it really matters, I want that guy being at his best.
Yeah, it also depends what your drop off is, isn't it? I mean, let's look at the Chargers drop off. I mean, they've got 82, 60, and then the rest of the receivers are absolutely terrible. Okay, there's one guy who's 50, but he's got a big drop off, so I can kind of understand that he wants to feed the guy.
Hmm. I
When
think as
when you've got a player
well,
that good, it's
yeah.
extreme. It's an extreme
I
example.
have a
It's
I
so
have a
good.
feeling last year, because I obviously paid more attention to the West, that his running back got hurt as well. So it
Yeah,
kind of almost ended his, I wouldn't say ended his running game, but he obviously felt he had to pass more because his running game took a hit. I'm not sure if that's correct, but I have that maybe it was a season before, but I
It was the
remember
season
that.
before.
Was it? Yeah. So I remember him putting on the forum a couple of times.
Mm. But yeah, the ideal scenario is to have, numerous good ones, isn't it? And bang, if you can bang 10 or 12 targets to, 4 quality players, you're safe, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in a safe position then. I mean, that's what I would like to do optimally.
Yeah. I think as well, I mean, if we go back to Rob as well, I think what he does is very, very clever with his so he'll get a wide receiver. He maybe unless he loves them, he'll trade them after a particular amount of years to go and get the next great one, and he'll get maybe more than he should do. But
Yeah.
he seems to do it all the time, doesn't he, Rob? And that's an art, Rob. Rob the trade or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm approached trading for Terrell in the same way. I mean, I believe I could go and trade him now for more than what I paid for him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because these guys are so valuable. You know, and if you move a guy in his 6th or 7th year, people just look at him, they see this massively high rating, and they're just like, oh my god, imagine what he could do for my team, and just they just throw caution to the wind and grab him, don't they? I mean, it's just
for me, I think I will trade. I can't even remember what his name is. It Pezier or whatever. The guy just took at 1.3. I will try and trade him probably at 6th or 7th year and get a lot for him.
This guy that you picked up, the 80 rated guy.
Yeah, Max Pelissier.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you'll get
2071 trade block, Max Pelissier.
You'll get a load for him. You will. You'll get you'll get a huge amount for him. You'll probably get like 1-2 value for him in the 6th season, won't you?
Yeah.
That's what I tried to do with Workman, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, he wasn't great though, was he? I mean, Workman.
I feel like he was pretty good. I know you didn't have issues with him necessarily, but I feel like as a guy, I thought he was good.
Well, who's he play for now? Do we know?
Yeah, he's on Arizona.
He's on Arizona.
Yeah, I guess your guy's an 80. He was a 70.
I'm just looking. Yeah, he did do pretty well actually. Yeah, but his yards per target aren't great, are they?
It jumps around, right? He had 9.81 his second year.
Yeah.
And then maybe I used him too much, right? 240 targets, 212 targets went down.
But I mean, I always remember playing you kind of when you had Workman, and I always thought that and tell me if you're wrong. I think Rob said it was because you were working a lot of time in the drafts. You always seem to have decent picks and then trade out. And Rob said it was something because you were working. So I was thought, bloody hell, he's got a really decent draft position. Maybe I'm imagining it. I don't know.
No, that does ring a bell. I was working for the elections department, and the draft kept coming like right during an election, and I'm working like way too much to be actively drafting at that point. So just happy to get out of it and figure out what happens
I don't
next
know.
time.
And I was doing, what's his name then, Schefter. So you see a lot more when you're Schefter because you're looking at other teams a lot.
Yeah, but also I'm not that good of a drafter, which is why I didn't mind trading 21 picks for Workman.
I didn't realize you did that actually.
I think that's what happened, but I could be mistaken, but I think it was pretty close to that.
Who did you trade? Who did you trade with to get those?
I don't remember. You know what though? I think it was something like Mikey had 1.2 and he traded to C-Max maybe, and I had offered Mikey the same deal and he didn't want it, and then C-Max was like, wait, you're going to send me all this for this pick I just traded for? I'll do it.
I don't remember, to be honest. Maybe Schefter.
I don't know.
I haven't spoken about defense yet, guys, at all.
I was literally about to say that. And that's the one I think.
I got a knock off in about, say, 20, 25 minutes. 25 minutes, probably.
Cool. I think defense is the one a lot of people struggle with, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on defense then, Nick?
My thoughts on defense are the best defense, is playing a bad offense. I mean, I think 2/3 of the equation is offense. So you can do everything perfectly on defense, and don't be discouraged if it doesn't work, because if you're, if the guy on offense is also doing really, really well, you're going to lose, because it's dictated mainly by the quality of the offense you're facing, in my opinion. But that's not to say that obviously it can have an impact. So it's like roughly, I think about 2/3, 1/3. So, So I mean, if in terms of what do you want to do? I mean, defensively, it's largely big red bars and cohesion and chemistry, I guess, isn't it? Probably in that order.
So, all right. So let's take pass coverage then. You got man, you've got bump and run, and you got zone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for your defensive backs, yeah,
Yeah.
particularly your cornerbacks, do you
Yeah.
feel there is a better one than the others, or do you feel it's a mix and match? Or
Well, I think man to man is more linked to cover two, and bump and run is linked more towards press coverage.
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I think zone is probably most important for linebacker. I'm not saying all positions, but nickel cornerback and free safety, particularly free safety zone.
yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I certainly, my free safeties, you'll always see they'll be sky high in zone.
Yeah,
Corners, I think even if you play, say, press two, I still think man to man it does come in, but not as much as your bump and run.
yeah. I
So
play a lot of press 1 and 2. I like bump and run.
you like press 1 and 2, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think any. I mean, that's they're better. I mean, there's that really, really helpful little chart in defensive philosophy, isn't there? Have you ever seen
Yeah,
that?
yeah. +1, -1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I mean, that's really, really helpful. That just lets you
Mm.
know where your strengths and weaknesses are. In the course of a game, it doesn't usually play out like you think it would, because the effect is, as I say, you've got variables such as the players and mainly the other offense. So you can have the right coverage and still get hammered,
Mm.
or the wrong coverage and still win. So it's not like an absolute, is it? It's just helps to nudge the probabilities in your direction, I would say.
Okay. All right. Another two things,
Ju-
Rylan, unless you want to jump in.
Yeah, Simon, you've got the #1 pass defense in the league right now. Why don't we
Have I?
just you have?
Okay.
Why don't we hear a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, I've got high cohesion for a start. I've had Nigeria, who I love, and I can't
You know
think
he's
of
not good though,
Covington.
right?
No, they're getting old. They're starting to drop off. So I think I've told most people what I do. I play press 1, press 2. Um, I have normally a top linebacker who plays nickel, and then I play a guy who has high zone in my nickel there. Like I say, running linebacker, cornerbacks, bump and run ideally, and I try to have guys with high interception, and that's what I've kind of done really. Yeah, I think Nigeria just seemed to. His stats don't look that good, but my defense always seemed to pull out something. If I was struggling, the run game weren't going, they force a turnover, or I don't know what they did it, but they did.
Don't you think that running the ball helps your pass defense, though?
Yes, because I'm controlling the clock. That's why I built the defense. Yeah,
Not to take anything away from your pass per attempt, because that's really good too. But I think a massive factor in pass defense is winning games. It's if you're controlling a game, you're putting the opposition in bad situations, aren't you? So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think you can have good looking pass defense numbers and not necessarily have a good pass defense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Because if you're 15 points up, the other team is going to start throwing.
Yeah. In bad situations, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like the Browns last game, I think I won, I was something like 15, maybe more points up. And then suddenly he starts throwing the ball in the last 3 minutes. I think he almost doubled his passing yards, in junk time. So, yeah.
Are you saying that helps or hurt your pass stats?
Maybe. So, for instance, I was winning by.
No, I asked if it helped or hurt, and you said maybe.
Well, so Nigeria picked up a pick 6. Yeah. And I think he picked that probably up because the Browns were throwing the ball. You know, there was quite a few long passes because they were trying to play catch up. So, yeah, I think it helps. I mean, it depends if you play by stats, doesn't it? You know, I play to win. I don't really give a fuck if my players have got the greatest stats or the worst stats in the world. It's at the end of the day, it's if I win.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, the one that baffles me sometimes, and I think a lot of people probably the same, is what does the diagnosis bar do? I think we all think we know what it does, but
Yeah. We all think we do. Yeah, there's a lot of guesswork involved, isn't there?
yeah. I also think as well, going back, I always think the pass rush helps.
Yeah. Yeah, of course
You
it
know,
does.
so if you haven't got a pass rush, you know, their QB is sitting there kind of going, right, take 5 seconds to look at the first target. And if you know what I mean? Where if you got a pass rush, you know, I
Yeah.
think, you know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I feel pass rush helps.
I think sample size again, and you know, there's going to be so much variability year to year in a pass defense because the outside influences are huge. I mean, your pass defense last year wasn't that good. Do you know what I mean?
I felt it was my worst year since I took over the Raiders last year. I think I was very lucky.
I mean, I just think, you know, pass defenses are going to be more influenced by how your opposition played against you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So it's just a weird stat to look at, isn't it? I mean, I think the Bills back in the day, they had like ludicrous defensive backs, 80 rated defensive backs. I mean, and then clearly they did start to benefit from that year in, year out. You know, an extreme example. So, you know, not to say it doesn't make any difference. Of course, it makes a difference. But yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of variability in pass defense statistics.
Do you
I think
guys
it's also
believe the PD percentage is useful?
no bollocks.
No, I don't read it. No, I don't personally read it.
So you're pretty much judging guys on defense by the bars, not the stats.
I would say so. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, thing is, it is a game of random numbers and probability. So I mean, if my guy has 100 and a 100 interceptions bar and he doesn't have any interceptions, I'm not going to think, oh, he's crap at interceptions. I'm going to think he had bad dice rolls. Do you know what I mean? Or if he had a 0 bar and got 5, then I'm not going to think, oh, actually he's better than what his bar saying. No, he's not. I just got lucky. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I would revert to the bars.
Yeah, I think there's another thing we're missing here as well is red zone defense makes a hell of a lot of difference. So so my defense always bent, but when it got to the red zone, it seemed to, you know, force field goals rather than giving up tight touchdowns. I think that's important as well.
Is your play calling change for the red zone in that case?
100%, yeah. And if you look, you can see it clearly in my looks. But yeah, it does.
Do you play more aggressively in the red zone then?
Yeah, I moved to man.
Yeah.
What's the point of playing zone? I play like an NFL team. There you go.
A few people do. And maybe blitz more, take more risk, you know.
No, I don't blitz. No.
You don't blitz at all? Okay.
No, I just play man.
Like man-to-man buzz, man-to-man as in like the
Man
run, as in a run defense, basically.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. Quite a few people do.
Yeah, it was interesting. Boots. So Boots was the co-GM with Pip. He's just in the league, and he said that he studied a lot, and he was a really good game planner, I think. But I think he had some issues and didn't get into the game. You know, stopped taking so much time over it, or something happened. I don't know, job wise or something. I'm not sure. But he said he watched a lot of GMs and really took time over it. And he said me, and I can't remember who the other one game planned a lot differently to other people.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
guess
I've
there's a
always
right way and a wrong way for everyone, isn't there?
I've always tended to crank up the aggressiveness in the red zone because you're not going to give up an 80-yard touchdown, are you?
No, precisely. So, yeah. What's the point
Yeah,
of playing zone or,
When you say
yeah,
aggressiveness, do you mean blitzing?
yeah, more so, yeah. Or yeah, I mean more trying to guess. I mean, I might just play a lot of cover two, bend but don't break in my mind sort of defense all the way down the
yeah.
field. But then when I get to the red zone, I might be try to take more risk in terms of the play calling. To try and guess what they're going to do. I mean, I will often look at what people do in the red zone. Because it's maybe only 3, 4 times, 5 times that you get a 1st and 10 in the red zone. And
Yeah.
if people are consistently calling the same thing, then at that point you can, adjust your defense specifically for what they're doing. Whereas, like I say, if you're playing normal 1-1-3, you're going to be running, you're going to be passing short, medium, long. You're going to have all this variability that you've got to try and cover. So I would, as a standard, just normally play a cover two just to try and be reasonable at stopping it. Whereas in the red zone, you know those 4 calls, they might all be runs, or it might be 2 runs and 2 short passes, or so then you can start to pigeonhole a little bit, and you think, right, okay, well if they're passing short and they're running, then you press 1 is probably the right coverage. Unless they are passing into the middle of the field, then you think, right, well, cover 1. Cover 1's probably the right call. So you could then start to, and maybe blitz 2 guys as well. You can start to pigeonhole down a bit, but it's not going to make it. Again, it's going to be mainly the offense and the dice rolls. It just gives you a little bit of an edge over the long term. Don't expect magic, because the dice rolls and the quality of the offense are going to be the larger forces in the equation.
I just am looking over random stats here, and I feel like we've been on Joel for his defense, and he is by far the best 3rd down defense in the league right now.
Yeah, it's just an example, of what I'm saying about don't read too much into defensive stats, because I think his defense is bad, but it's just not showing up in the stats as being bad, is it?
Yeah, you look, I'm not being funny. You look at Joel when he drafts, and he'd probably be the first one to admit he loves offense. So he
Yeah.
and I think in a way he plays a little bit for stats. I can't speak for him, but
Yeah. I mean, you try and find a consistency of patterns year in, year out, and you're going to struggle. Yeah, 1 year he might look great on 3rd down, but the next year he might be the worst in the league, sort of thing. It's that, it's because offense, you'll tend to find clearer patterns because they're the bigger element in the equation, whereas defense is a smaller element, so it's going to be dictated by an outside force largely. So yeah, you are going to get weird things crop up, I think. They can lead you to false conclusions.
So change this. I know you're running out of time, Nick. Change the subject slightly. So
10 minutes, yeah.
You were about what, away for 10 seasons or so?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I took over the Raiders because Kevin went to Seattle. Right.
Yeah.
Since you've been back, would you say the league has gone up a little bit in standard, or so? What I'm saying, do you think a lot of GMs are catching up now?
I would say, truthfully, this is honest.
Yeah.
I didn't think about front office football for 18 months, really.
Yeah.
So, there's massive rust on my behalf, I think. I didn't look at the league. I didn't think about it. I don't remember, I only remember the major things, so,
I'm
trying to ask me about the past. I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm calling. I think you're using that for a cover, Nick.
No, it's not. It's the truth, mate. It's the truth.
I'm going to call you out on that, mate. I'm going to
I
call
mean,
you out.
no,
You've
you
got a
call me out if you
brilliant
want.
memory. I know you've got a really, really, really good memory.
Yeah, but I
Because you
remember
said
stuff
it
I need
before.
to remember. It's like in
Yeah.
life, we remember things that we want to remember and need to remember.
Mm.
Certain things I don't need to remember, so I won't remember them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking what Rylan is a difference, and I would say Tom is a difference. You know, they're a difference.
Mm.
So when I left, I expect there were probably two other guys that were playing particularly well. Maybe were there? What year are we talking? When did I leave? I don't even remember.
55 was the year I took over, I
So if
think.
we said, for argument's sake, 54, Max was running Atlanta, presumably. So yeah,
Oh, no, I think he was I'm not sure. He was co-GM Chicago, I think, for a while, if I remember.
you could say the Jets were probably stronger back then, weren't they?
I just, I'm not saying individuals, just an overall. Do you think the league is a bit stronger now or a bit weak or roughly say?
No, I think coming back to diminishing returns, I think we're at a point where most of us have been playing the game so long that eventually you stop learning. You learn a little bit more, maybe, but
Yeah.
you know, first of all, you learn very, very quickly. There's a lot to take in. There comes a point where, you know, people start to flatten out. I think, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start
Yeah.
to flatten out in your. I mean, I play PUBG, and I'm no better than I was a year ago. But then I've been playing for what, 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
So you reach a certain level, and then you don't tend to get a lot better, I think. And I think probably the quality of front office football is starting to level out. You know, really as a whole, I think it is. It probably hasn't improved that much, but it's certain guys that come in that are good players, and so from that perspective, you could say
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah.
that things have improved.
Do you also think there's a bit of what you might call war weariness, where people have been playing so long,
Yeah, yeah,
they're hanging
it
in
hit me.
there.
I mean, that's why I left, because I stopped being that asked, you know, and
Yeah,
I don't like
it was
that.
a chore more than it was fun.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
chore for me. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, I was just bored. You know, I'd won 11 bowls, and I just
Yeah, I can
didn't.
get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't feel. I had nothing more to prove, and I had nothing. You know, whether I won 12 or not, it came to the
Didn't
point where I
matter.
wasn't
Yeah.
that bothered. And yeah, so at that point, rather than be half-assed, I probably had to go. But I think we're all in different states of it, aren't we? Rob seems to be insanely on it. I mean, how the hell his head stays in the game and running these sims in the morning, I'll never know.
Yeah.
Certain. I mean,
But Rob's only down to 2 leagues now, I think. So he's come
yeah,
right
I
back.
think yeah. I mean, you're obviously enjoying the game because you went through the shit, and now you come out the other side. So obviously you must feel
I'm
very
actually,
positive.
the last couple of seasons, I'm fucking bored. To be
Oh
quite
yeah.
honest. Yeah, because I'm winning in the regular season and I lose, and it's like, I've got
Yeah,
I got to
yeah,
go again. You know what I mean? At least
yeah,
when you were shit, you kind of, you
yeah,
had a bit of a point to prove. And it's like when I played any game in my life, and I'm a gamer. It's like once you win once, it kind of takes something away from the game.
yeah. It's devastating, though, isn't it? When you have an amazing season and you get
Yeah.
knocked out, it's devastating. It ruins your day, doesn't
I
it?
went second season. I went 15-1, and I was
Yeah,
done. And I think I'm probably Ryland because he always beats me in the bloody player. It was just like
yeah. No, it normally takes me a day to reset and get my head back when I lose in the playoffs. After, yeah,
It was Rob.
it was Rob, was it? Yeah. It's funny though, isn't it, Ryland? Because I think I had something like 19 wins on the trot in regular season, and he had something like 5 or 6. No, I don't know how many it was, but come playoffs, I'd lose to Ryland.
yeah. I mean, I think the league's full. We don't seem to have a problem keeping the league full, so I don't think it's probably any more. People aren't feeling staleness any more than they did a year or two ago.
No, I just
I
wondered.
mean, you get your dropouts like your Hibbies and Steve Rush and Dave,
Yeah,
the UK Pat fan, who were guys that you thought would probably be here forever. Cornerstones of the league, and they left. But that's just life, isn't it? There's if one guy that gets bored, there's another guy that's happy to take his place. I suppose it's just life, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
How are your dark horses looking, Nick?
My dark horses. Right, let's have a look. Minnesota, Giants, and San Francisco.
The Giants are 4-1, I think. I think Max is 4-1 as well.
They're all 4-1.
They're looking pretty damn good. They're all 4-1. My dark horses. They're
Yeah,
not
but
that
look at
dark.
I'm not being funny. Joe was stacked on offense, isn't he? So
Yeah, but
is he
he's got
really
the,
a
he's
dark
got the
horse?
Eagles. He's got the Eagles. Yeah, of course he is. He's got the Eagles in his league.
True, but look, he's got 85 QB, 70 running back, 61, 64.
Terrible defense. Yeah. No, they're
Yeah.
they're just grey horses, really, aren't they? They're not dark. Yeah, how are yours doing then, Ryland? Who did you
They're
pick?
looking.
Remind
They're
me.
still dark.
Are they still dark? Yeah.
Yeah, I had
He-
Cincinnati, Indy, and Denver, and they've all got 2 wins.
Oh, so I
Wow.
was right then. After all, I was right.
I will
They're
say,
not being
hey,
funny, Ryland. They're not good. They're not good choices, are they, mate? Be honest.
Indy's leading their division.
Huh?
They are, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Any surprises then, fellas? Are you surprised about anybody that's playing? The Packers surprised me. Bloody Shane messaged me the other day. Said, he said, that quarterback you sent me, he said I should have paid a lot more. You sent me a good one there. I just sent him
Shane's a
back
good-
2 words. I just said dice rolls.
Shane's a good lad.
Which
Yeah,
quarterback
yeah.
is he talking about?
Deal. Is it Deal or something like that? My backup.
Hmm.
Of course it's dice rolls. But yeah, Shane believes. He thinks he's got Tom Brady.
Well, if he does, he's got him for $8 million for the next 4 years.
Yeah. He doesn't. That's fine.
Who else do I think? Brian's going well, considering he's got the rookie, but he's getting pretty high already, that rookie.
Yeah. I find strength of schedule is quite a big thing, isn't it, in this game?
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted with my strength of schedule when I saw it this year. It's like Vikings away, Eagles away, Giants
Yeah.
at home, Steelers away, 49ers. I mean, come on. It's just like nearly all the best teams in the league.
Actually, a video without you saying something about Saul Brian, he used to like to beat down.
Yeah, me and Brian are pretty good friends, actually, to tell the truth. So it's just friendly banter, But yeah, I did like to beat him down. But that's the thing, when you don't play in the division, you don't get that emotionally charged, do you?
Yeah, true.
So I don't really even look too much at what Brian's up to.
Yeah.
I did, and Jeremy. I used to enjoy battering Jeremy, I must admit.
There isn't
But,
really a shock team this year, I'd say. I mean, Clown's
Packers.
been.
Yeah,
No,
Packers,
he's normally pretty decent. I think he's had a cut.
yeah, he's all right.
Evan's always pretty good.
Yeah, but Evan was shit last year, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I think
Yeah,
he
7 and 9.
I think he
not
got
shit,
injuries, didn't he?
yeah, but he also
Yeah, he did,
kind
didn't
of
he? Yeah,
he
he
also
did. Yeah.
breaks it completely down. So do you remember he played massive amounts as quarterback many years back?
His quarterback only played 11 games last year. I think that was
What
big
was his?
problem.
No, he had the really good quarterback, didn't he? Remember he played like I don't know 4, 5, no 7 first, wasn't it? And then when he went, he literally broke his whole team down. So I think that's why you see that break of like from 10, 11 wins down to 1 or 2, then up again. I mean, Tampa's probably the biggest surprise this year, I'd say.
Yeah, Tampa's doing well.
Which is them, isn't it?
I mean, they've been 9-7, 9-7, 8-8, 9-7.
Yeah.
Now they're on top of the division for the moment.
But remember Nem was the Saints GM to a couple of seasons back, wasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about jumping franchises.
I've done it a couple of times.
I
I lose
realize I'm talking
rounds.
to two franchise jumpers, but
Yeah, yeah. If I took, I mean, the Raiders, you know, you got to be the Raiders, haven't you? Everybody loves the Raiders.
well, that's
All
definitely
right,
not the case.
what would you say about teams who should be? You've done your dark horses. What about the teams you feel are maybe, you know, particularly underperforming this year? Who would you say those are?
It seems weird to see the Jets as low as
Yeah,
what they
that's
are.
what jumped out to me as well. I would
Yeah,
normally expect better from the Jets.
yeah,
It's early still, but
yeah.
Yeah.
they haven't had the easiest schedule.
Mikey's been good the last couple of seasons, but
Yeah, that's somewhat unexpected as well to see him at 1-4-1.
there's no one I'd really say. Maybe no, probably the biggest one I'd say is the Bengals, Julio, 2-4.
Why is that?
Julio.
Huh?
I said, why is that?
Because he's a bloody good GM, I think.
Well, hasn't made the playoffs in 6 years, 7 years. Hasn't had
Okay.
eight wins in 6 years. I agree he's a
Wow.
good GM, but at this point, this is sort of the run he's on
Yeah, true.
until he gets back into form, where obviously he
Yeah.
was doing super well for a long time.
The
Yeah,
Eagles
he's
have
got.
shown a little bit of vulnerability this year, haven't they? I mean, I know they're 4-2, but
Yeah, yeah.
they
There
didn't.
was
They're not. They don't look smoking hot, do they?
no,
Yeah,
and I think
you
Tom's
wouldn't have expected him to lose
frustrated.
to Washington.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean, they've played four very iffy teams plus some moderate Falcons, and you know, they only okay, the 49ers are a good team, but yeah, I mean, they've only beat the Saints by 3.
yeah. You can tell when Tom's upset as well because he's a really polite, nice guy, and I think he lost and he just put good game, which was which is always a sign that you're pissed off as a GM, isn't it?
Yeah,
Good
that's
game.
quite.
Oh, I thought the sign
I'll
was
be
when it
watching.
says good game, but it also says edited.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
you've come back and decided, oh fuck, that was too mean. I need to just make this easy.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
They got to play the Bucks away tomorrow. That's quite an interesting game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was quite upset when I lost to the Bucks, but they totally deserve to win.
Tampa's turned it
um,
around.
Yeah. But
Mm.
that'd be interesting if the Eagles beat the Bucks and we can beat the Panthers. We are playing them away, but potentially we could get back to level wins and losses.
Yeah, I mean, not being funny. Your division's not the strongest, isn't it? You should
No,
maybe be in that with
no,
your
it's not.
level.
No, well, I just ain't got the team at the moment, Simon. I can't do any more really at the moment. It's I really am struggling. Got to
Yeah.
get more talent in. Just I've got a quarterback and a wide receiver to play with, and that's basically it. It's hard
My
work.
little violin is going, Nick.
Yeah, I'll get there, mate. I'll get there. Just got to give me time, bit patient. I said to you it'd be longer than what you thought. You thought I was messing about, but it was always gonna take time. I mean, I made that move for Terrell, and he cost me 3 firsts.
Yeah.
And
Do you know my probably my most the boss who I got in real life I got the most out of, yeah. And probably taught me much over the years, and I'm getting old now. He turned around to me and he said, one of the things he said to me, he goes, Simon, he goes, I don't want problems, I want solutions.
Give
Yeah.
me
And
some draft picks, I'll have some
Nick, from
solutions.
you is
Yeah.
problems.
Give me some draft picks. I'll give you some solutions. Until I got some draft picks, you're not going to get any solutions, mate. Unfortunately. So, I felt that I had to get Terrell, because if I didn't get Terrell, I would have been picking in the top 10. And
Would that have been a bad thing?
It is for me, Simon, because I don't want to win that way. I don't want to.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Because I don't think that's because I've always.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. Yeah,
I don't want to lower myself to tanking like that. I want to try to be respectable, average, and then become good. I don't want to slingshot down grab myself a couple of studs, and then win, because that devalues winning to me. So
Yeah, I
try and do
agree
it.
with you. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got to make a move, boys. Anyway, it's been
All
an
right,
absolute
cool.
pleasure. You know,
Yeah.
unless there's anything pressing that we need to talk about, I think we
No,
covered it, haven't we?
Yeah, I think.
Nope, nothing pressing.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's been enjoyable. I don't suppose we solved anything. And I think the problem was Tizak's video was very, very good, and he did cover most of the stuff I would have discussed. But hopefully there'll be a few nuggets in here and there. And
Yeah, as I posted, I think if everyone picks up one thing,
yeah,
one little thing, it's been a success, hasn't it?
yeah, and I
And
think
that was the point of doing it.
understanding the limitations of what game planning is going to do for you, and understanding that you can do everything right and still fall on your ass, and that's just the way it is. That's the game, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. And
Yeah.
also, do not underestimate balance, because you know you can completely destroy your team if you're not paying attention to balance.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I've picked out of today is maybe your excuses, Nick,
My excuses, yeah,
for not being
pretty
good.
good, aren't they,
Simon,
really?
you've
Yeah.
obviously not been paying very much attention then.
I'm just enjoying this for the once time in my football FOF life. I can kind of say I'm playing better than Nick. I'm just going to enjoy it.
You're not
'Cause
playing.
it won't
playing
last
better than
long.
me, Simon.
It won't last long. I know it won't.
You've got a better team than me, but you're not playing better than me. It's two entirely different
Here we
things.
go. I'm just going to enjoy. Everyone has 5 minutes. They're famous for 5 minutes. I'm enjoying my.
Well, if you would run in the Falcons, mate, if you walked into the Falcons, it would have been a bloodbath. Trust me.
Do you reckon?
Absolute. Oh, 100%.
I seem to turn my Raiders round pretty well.
Yeah, but did they look like my Falcons? Did they have literally no players and no draft picks?
No, I had draft picks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kevin left it in a decent position, but for what he wanted to do.
He would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would do.
Yeah. Kevin's a
Yeah,
top guy,
yeah.
and he's a
As I
very
say,
good GM, I think.
It's not just about your results. It's about the game that you're playing. You know what you handed, whether you handed Leicester City or Man United, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. If
But,
you say so,
we'll
Nick. Yeah.
see.
I'm just rubbing it in and kind of enjoying it, mate.
We've got to, you know, as I say, you've got to give it time. Unfortunately, you can't. You judge people over the short term, you're going to get inaccurate answers. Over the long term, then you know the truth will be told. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I think. Like Rob is a prime example of that. The way that he's held together and the way that really nobody else has. They've been excellent for 20 seasons, and then eventually it becomes very, very, very hard to keep drafting at the back of the draft and keep your shit together, especially when you start to lose those skill position players.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the one thing Rob does, and he's told, you know, he has the balls to make that big move and go and get the player that's going to make the difference. He's done that so many times.
But he's such a good drafter, though, and when you draft that well, you've got the confidence to do it, but also he knows that he's never going to be drafting. He's never going to give a high pick away, is he?
No.
So
no.
I mean, you know, he is in that privileged position where if he pick, you know, he knows he's not going to be giving 1-5 away or anything. So, and he is a good drafter, so he knows with relative certainty that the guy's going after. I mean, when was the last time he went after a guy and he busted? You know, it doesn't happen, does it?
Well, I mean,
if
his
you look,
offense was built on top 3 picks.
Yeah, but no, if you look,
But you're talking about drafting it at the back of the draft all the time, but the backbone of his team is top 3 picks.
But he keeps trading up.
Yeah, precisely. And no one else really does it.
Also, the thing is, because what you'll find with Rob is because he drafts so well in the second, third, and fourth, he'll load those players into the package. So he'll have the 60 and 70 rated guys that he drafted in the second and
as
third
he says,
round.
he overpays all the time.
And he'll throw those players in with the first round picks. Because he's drafted so well later, then he can get up to 1-3.
Yeah.
But he still loses in the playoffs, and none of that matters, does it?
One day, Rob, you'll come on and have a rebuttal, hopefully.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, boys, I'm going to make a move. It's been a pleasure, and we'll do it again.
All right, cheers,
All
guys.
right. Cheers, Nick. Cheers, Riley.
Take care.
Thanks for joining, Simon.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.